like the man says, we've seen it. We're Vietnam veterans against the war. I don't know, it's really hard to talk to a bunch of people who don't really know what I'm trying to say. How many people out there are draft eligible? Yeah. Far out. Well, Nixon said he's going to end the war sometime when he feels like it, maybe just before he runs for re-election. How many of you are going to have to go over there and see what I saw? Maybe die. This affects everybody. It doesn't just affect the guys that are draft eligible, it also affects the chicks who may be going with those guys that want to marry them someday. I'd like to bring you a whole husband. It affects the blacks. 45% of the combat over there is fought by blacks. They have a higher number of casualties than the whites do. Chicanos is the same thing. Indians is the same thing. Everybody's getting nailed off in that war. It's not pretty. And we're going to go to Washington as Vietnam veterans against the war. We're going to be about, we hope, 50,000 strong. It's got to say something to somebody. If it doesn't, and I think we're in a lot of trouble. We have a lot of credibility. The other peace groups have tried, and the government says to them, you don't know what you're talking about. But they sure as hell can't say that to us. Not at all. They can call us a hell of a lot of things, but they can't call us cowards. We went and fought their fucking war. And maybe you're going to have to go fight it too. And we want your support. Your verbal support, your funds to help us get there. We need your help to stop it too. That's about all I've got to say. There's some other people that have to talk too.
I've been talking for about a year now since I've been back from Vietnam, and I've been talking almost every night for the last 2 weeks, so I'm getting pretty tired of that. I'm only going to say a few things, because there's no way that you can describe Vietnam. I don't care if you show movies, if you show slides, but we tell you in complete detail what we went through. There's no way anybody here could see it unless they went. What we're trying to do right now, as you all know, is go to Washington. This is the last step, I think, that can work, because Congress is supposed to be the control over the executive in this country. I know a lot of times it doesn't look that way, but this is the way it's done. We're going there completely nonviolent, and it's going to lobby all our state representatives and senators of Colorado and every other state. The Colorado delegation is going to go in. I've already written Aspinall, Senator Dominic, and Senator Allett. Whether they answer or not, they've got our letters, and we're going to be there. We're going to present letters from anyone who can't go, personally hand deliver them to these people who are supposed to be our representatives. We're taking our medals, and any medals of any Vietnam veterans who can't make it to Washington, and we're turning those over also. I'd just like to point out that I've heard some comments of people walking around campus here, come over here and look at these medals and make some wise remark that, well, there's not enough credibility, or, I don't see a discharge. I'll let you know that every single person in our group does not have a dishonorable discharge, has a perfect war record. We've got people that go all the way up to lieutenant colonel. Anybody wants to argue this, come see us, we'll talk to you. But don't just walk by and then, say, well, I got those too. This means something to the Congress. They're the ones that gave us these medals for doing their little war over there, and we're giving them back. We want something more than medals. We want to stop the war, and we want you people not to have to go out there and kill others. So this is the main objective right now. We're completely in sympathy with all these other groups, especially the Indians. I'm part Cherokee myself, and when we get to Washington, we are going to personally talk, I know I will, about House Bill 1452, and impress that upon him. I think this is very important. I think it relates to Vietnam. But I really seriously doubt that if the Vietnam War isn't ended, the people aren't going to care about the Indians, they're not going to care about the Chicanos, they're not going to care about the blacks or any other minority in this country. Because you can always direct your interest 16,000 miles away in a war that nobody even knows anything about unless they've been there. There's a lot of blacks in Vietnam that are getting zapped at a high percentage, a higher percentage than blacks in the service. The same with Chicanos. And the inequities in that war, I'm not even going to get into. So this is something that I think everybody, every group, every minority has to back up and hope that we can get an end to this solution and come back. And we want your support right now. Like I said, the whole week in Washington is paid for. Somebody is paying for the food to provide 20, 30, 40,000 Vietnam veterans for the whole week. All we want is some money to get to Washington and get back. So somebody's going to pass around a helmet, and if anybody has any spare change or whatever you want to do, go ahead and help us out. I think Rob Modisette wants to say a few things. Thank you.
Well, you people all know pretty much where we're at. You've been listening to us. We've been talking to everybody. You guys are the peace freaks. You come to the peace rally. Of course you're peace freaks. We want to get people that aren't the peace freaks, people that think the war might be just. I've talked to people who say the war is just. Okay, we sit down and have a quiet cup of coffee, talk for 2 hours. I've absolutely talked to one man around that I can name. He was for the war, he left against the war, and he's given us support and his DD-214 to go to Washington to oppose it. Okay, we know what the war's about. You know what we're about. You know we need scratch. The helmet's coming around, put in a nickel. Also, if you haven't heard about our party, we're having a party tomorrow. It's going to be over at the CSU Preschool on South Shields, so come by. We're going to have cakes of beer and charge admission. We can't do that. So we're going to have cakes of beer and give it away. We can't do that. We can't do nothing. So we're going to have food. We're going to have chili made by the High Mountain Church on rice, on brown rice, and we're going to have a relish plate. We're going to have bands. So we're asking you to come. We'll probably take a $1 donation or something like that. You're going to have to bring your own beer. You can't bring real beer, just 3-2. This is what we've got going. Yeah, you know. We thought we had a good thing going. It's turned into almost a bummer now. But, you know, come to our party. That's going to be a good trip. You can help us and have a good time. Out of sight. How can you beat it? You can't. Okay, another thing. We're going to have a march on Thursday. Next Thursday, we're going to march to the War Memorial. We're doing it non-politically. We're Vietnam veterans. We lost friends over there. Men from Fort Collins died in Vietnam. We're going to march to the War Memorial. We're going to lay a commemorative wreath on it to pay our respects as Vietnam veterans and as students and as American Legion members and VFW members and anybody else who wants to go to pay respects, we want them to go. Out of sight. This is another good thing. As I said, we're not going to be political. Our only politics, we're carrying our organization flag. I'm going to go and talk to them. Of course they're going to call me a hippie, and of course they're going to call me a communist. I'm not. I don't care if they call me that, because the people who call me that are full of garbage. You know it. I know it. I'd like to talk to those people. If anybody thinks I'm a hippie, I might be a hippie. I don't want to even say if I am or not. I don't know. What's a hippie? But if I'm a communist, come and tell me if you think I'm a communist. We'll discuss our ideological views. And I think when you leave, you're going to be very impressed. Guys in our group, you know, we've had guys that are relatively long hairs up here. We have 2 policemen in the CSU Police Department that are with us. One guy was a Marine platoon sergeant in Vietnam. He's a cop now. He's against the war. He's a super straight. Out of sight. We're together. Why? Because we want to end the damn war. So, you know, just go out and talk to people. Come to our party. And there was one point that hasn't been made adequately, I think, that the Indians have something to say, the blacks have something to say, the student mobilization has something to say, the nonviolence has something to say, we have something to say, and we're saying it as separate groups. We should all be together. I know it's a common thing to say, but the blacks are getting ripped off. They're getting killed in Vietnam, they're getting screwed in this country. The Indians are getting ripped off. They got killed in this country, now they're getting screwed in this country. Everybody's getting ripped off. So let's go. If we can unify. If you know somebody that thinks the war is right, send them over to talk to me. I'll talk to them. Quietly. I don't want to fight nobody. I fought my war. I'm done. I'm going to talk my war now, and I'm going to keep talking until something happens. If there's a war in the street, I'm getting on an airplane. I'm not going to fight it. It's ridiculous. If there's a war in the streets, everybody's going to get wasted, and it'll set up a fascist state. My father was a virgin. Okay. Goodbye.
I want to say something here because I think maybe I don't know how much weight I'm going to add or something like this. First of all, I want to tell you a little bit about me because I think it adds a little bit to this movement. I'm behind the movement. I want to work with them. I can't go to Washington. It's the only bummer about it. But I'm behind them. I was a regular Army captain, a lifer, for you guys that know what that means. Airborne Ranger, the whole bullshit, you know, the whole bit. And I served in Vietnam. I was an advisor to the Vietnamese. Let me tell you, you guys were in American units. I think it was bad news there. You guys had worse as far as the fighting was, and more of you got killed than Vietnamese or advisors did. But we got to take a look at that war from the Vietnamese side and see what a crock of shit it was to them. You may have seen a political cartoon a few years back with some American GI dressed in his combat in fatigues and all of his combat gear with his M16 and everything else, and here's this Arvin standing here in full dress uniform, you know. The Arvin's telling the GI, he says, for you it's a war, for me it's a way of living. Well, that's right, for him it is. He doesn't take it very seriously either. Let me tell you what happened the first time I went on an ambush with a Vietnamese company. This outfit is a regional force company. They're militia, but they're full-time soldiers. They're supposed to be guarding their province and their district. We're out in Tay Ninh province, which was one of the hottest provinces in '69. We go out and set up on a rice, out by a hedgerow, out in some bamboo area, which we thought was a BC trail. Everybody sets up. You know, about 2 hours later, I found out I was the only guy in that whole outfit that was awake. Every one of those Vietnamese in the middle of the night was sacked out on an ambush. Now, I don't know how that comes to you people who've never been in the Army. I know you guys in Vietnam that have been in Vietnam, you tried sacking out on an ambush. I know it happened, but you were sticking your neck way out. And here I am sitting there with one other advisor, 2 Americans sitting here with 80 Vietnamese all asleep around us. That's how seriously they take that war. They work office hours and they take 2-hour lunch breaks. Sounds like a bunch of crap, but that's exactly what they do. Especially on the local level, the politicians, the semi-politicians. The Army, of course, runs the districts and the provinces and this sort of thing. But that's what they do. They operate, you know, whenever they want to, if they feel like it. That's why Laos was such bad news. I saw Laos coming. They went in there, and that was going to be a sustained campaign. They were on their own. But I saw the Vietnamese 2 years before. I hope maybe they'd improve. They didn't. They were just as bad because they could get up there and stay for maybe 2 days, and after that, they're through. They don't want to fight that war anymore. They're Saigon cowboys. They'll fight as long as there's a little glory in it, but once they get a little tired of it, it gets to be bad news. I wrote a letter this week to President Nixon. I'm going to read you a little bit of it here. As for myself, I've worked with a Vietnamese advisor and have seen nothing that will make them an effective fighting force. My worst fears were justified when the Arvins suffered what cannot be described other than a defeat, and our massive support failed to salvage their position in Laos at the cost of more than a few American lives. I no longer can support the vast expenditure of American lives and resources to bolster a people who show little desire to protect their own nation or support a regime in Saigon of questionable effectiveness at best. The communist ambitions in Southeast Asia may be an indirect threat to our security, but there is a point when our cost in supporting our foreign policy in Southeast Asia becomes a morbid absurdity, and we have now surpassed that point. That's what I think. That's what I told Nixon. I won't be able to go tell him in person like these guys will. I hope they get somewhat the same point across. The thing is this, main thing I'm thinking of here is that we've lost a lot of lives over there already, and after Laos, I don't think the Vietnamese are really in it. If they're not, there's no reason we should be.